So hi, welcome to Rise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
I'm Mark from Inertia.
and we're going to have some questions to say about their new album, Second Shadow. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
Yeah, thanks for that. It's been very good. We got to play a bunch of new songs in July on a couple of tours, so we got to introduce some of the new stuff, and people seemed to enjoy it. And when the album came out, it was had a good response. We didn't really know what to expect, so we're very happy.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
The album fucking rocks.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Thanks so much.
Of
Thanks.
course. Hell yeah.
Of course, yeah. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
The cover art is something that we found from an artist that we like online. And we're notoriously bad with just making decisions and just like, hey, we need to make the call on what the album art is going to be. I found that one online, and I just thought it kind of embodied a lot of the themes that we have on the album in a cool visual way. So we all were just like, hey, it looks cool, it fits.
Mhm.
We actually made a decision for once. Um, it was relatively easy in that way. Second Shadow is from one of the lyrics in the song. That was one of the things that Julian, our vocalist, came up with. That can also have a few different meanings interpreted in a few different ways. Whether it be something that's kind of eating at you, or someone that's eating at you. You can also interpret it in different ways, like looking at something from a different perspective, or something that's following you, or something like that. So, yeah, it is very much open to interpretation, but yeah, there's a few different meanings you can kind of glean from it.
Hell yeah.
I love that.
And those meanings that you pulled out, are those some of the themes that run throughout the record, or is it just kind of like the title disconnected from the album?
Each song does have its own theme. But they do kind of connect in various ways as well. That there's some common threads throughout it. In terms of like Second Shadow itself, I think like in terms of how we come up with themes and lyrics and stuff like that, it's a few different ways. But on that particular instance, Julian just had a thought of living up to someone's expectations, and just having that second shadow over your shoulder.
Mm.
I think that is something that runs throughout the album a little bit. But it might not even be someone else's expectations. It might be your own expectations that you're not living up to, or that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah, cool. So we generally start instrumentally. It's either myself or Ollie, who plays bass in the band. He's also a great guitarist, so he does a lot of instrumental writing as well. So either one of us will kind of start a song idea. Once we're relatively happy with it, we'll bring it to the rest of the band. We have discussions, and once we kind of pinpoint what we want to do with it, we'll talk about vocals. Vocals come out in a few different ways as well. Sometimes Julian, our singer, will have a theme that he wants to write about, that he wants to sing about. And then often we'll have some discussions about specifics on lyrics. We tend to be pretty collaborative that way. Oftentimes I'm doing a melody first, so I'll kind of key something out that fits the vibe of the song. Sometimes I'll have lyrics good to go as well, and I'll just kind of present it to the band. But a lot of the time we'll have those melodies, and then we'll come together as a band and have those discussions about what we want to say specifically in terms of lyrics. And same thing with Julian. Sometimes he'll just have something good to go for a section, and then we'll expand from there. Myself personally, I usually start with the chorus because that's what everyone wants to hear, and
Exactly.
I find myself just kind of focusing on that first, and expanding from there.
Yeah, hell yeah. If you got a big chorus, like you got the song at that point.
Exactly.
Everything else is just fluff. But I'm curious. I'm curious. You've got Jacob from Thornhill on the record as a feature on the second track. Curious how that came about, because that song was sent to us not once but actually multiple times by listeners of the podcast. So curious how that came about.
Yeah, that one's a favorite. So we pretty much had the song good to go, and we were thinking about if we wanted a feature on the album. Just in the later stages of finishing up the album, and we were like, if any song were to have a feature, I think that section in Leviathan would be one to go for. And we had just done a regional Australian tour with Thornhill. And I think by the end of that, we were like, okay, I think we have to ask Jacob if he wants to jump on a track.
Yeah.
Luckily, he was very down. We get along with the Thornhill guys. They're very nice guys. And yeah, we just got along, and we kind of seemed to be compatible musically. Jacob was very down to do it. I actually had like a melody and lyrics and stuff good to go for it, but he was just like, let me do my thing. And he just came up with ideas that I never would have came up with, something fresh for the band. So I think it worked out really well. It fit our style while being something new. And then yeah, there's some kind of interweaving of Jacob and Julian's vocals going on as well. So yeah, it was a really cool moment for the album.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Very organic as well.
Yeah, it's like, we already knew them. We were tight at that point. So yeah, it just made sense.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Damn right. So what song off the album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Ooh, the longest to write personally for me was a song called In Rapture. I
That's my
had
favorite.
that. Oh, nice. Awesome.
Sorry.
I had that riff good to go, and a couple of sections after that, but then we started getting into the momentum of writing the album, and that one just kind of got pushed aside a little bit. And towards the end of the process, I was like, I really want that riff to be on the album. I got to do something with it. So yeah, fleshed it out a little bit more, and then actually Ollie and I kind of came together on the breakdown section of it just to kind of finish it up. Really, I think that's all it needed. So yeah, that one, at the start it was fine, but then there was just a big gap of nothing, and then so in terms of like time, that one did take the longest to write. Personal favorite though, I want to say the last track, Lament, which, being at the end of the album, I realize not everyone's going to listen to it. It's 2024. I don't know how many people are listening to, however long the album is. So it's a little bit of a shame in that way, but I do know that the people who are listening to it, there's been a bunch of people saying like, oh, this is my favorite song on the album. I really like this one. So it got to some people at least.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Oh yeah. So how the track list I'm going about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, so the opening track, Counterfeit, that was one of the earlier ones that I put together. And I did feel like it was opening track potential. I kind of want to say same thing with Lament. Like, as soon as that came out, it was like, okay, that seems like a closing track to me.
Yeah.
All the stuff in the middle, honestly, was just like what flows. There wasn't really a conscious decision for the rest of the album of we need a song to be the middle of the album, if you know what I mean. It was more just, we wrote a bunch of songs. I think we ended up writing maybe 18 to 20 songs and cutting it down from there. And that was just like, these are the songs that we feel like fit together and represent us as a band at that time. So yeah, at that point it was just listening through and see what kind of flowed together.
Yeah, goddamn. So 18 to 20 songs written, were those fully fleshed out or just like ideas?
Most of them had vocals at least. it was a pretty lengthy process for us. It was our first album.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we were kind of just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck.
Yeah.
There were a few ideas where it was like, most of the instrumentals there, but we have better stuff, so let's not really pursue it.
Yeah.
So there's a few of those, but there are definitely songs that we are probably never going to release that are pretty fully fleshed out.
Damn, never gonna release. That's crazy. No, like little silly little B-side or anything?
Yeah, I mean, never say never,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's very fair.
Locked,
yeah,
locked away in the vault for now.
Yeah.
exactly.
Curious about like the timeline for the record, like when you guys kind of officially started writing things and when things were wrapped up, mastered, turned in, and turning the page on it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a full time length, I want to say it was about a year and a half,
Mhm.
something like
Oh,
that.
okay. Hmm.
Um, so not the shortest process ever, but again, it was our first album. We were kind of still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because we put out an EP called Memoria in 2022.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it was probably 6 months or so after that that we actually started thinking about what we were doing next in terms of like, is it going to be an EP? Is it going to be an album? Is it,
Yeah.
what do we want to do really? Um, so yeah, it was a little bit after that EP that we started writing. And then, once you have the music done, it's like, obviously getting it mixed and stuff like that. I was doing the mixing in-house for it, which
Hmm.
is like a blessing and a curse because
Yeah.
you can spend forever tweaking on your own material, but
Hmm.
you do have to call it at the end of the day and say like, hey, it's done.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's also vinyl pressing times, which is probably the most lengthy process,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and music videos, all that kind of stuff. So it had that kind of 6 month window of sitting around just kind of waiting for it to come out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
funny that you bring up the mixing and that fine line of knowing when to stop versus not knowing when to stop, because that's been a question ping ponging in my head since you mentioned that you also produce all the stuff. So I'm curious, for you, like how do you know when it's time to stop? Is it the band telling you to stop? Is it something that you know, or do you just keep going until they're physically pulling you off the controls?
Yeah, yeah. You do have to wear a couple of hats in that situation.
Hmm.
Because I produce full time with other bands, I kind of have the experience of um, working with a band as opposed to being in the band,
Mhm.
and doing your own thing as well. So I've kind of been on both sides of it. So at a certain point, I kind of just had to, all the production is done, all the recording is done.
Hmm.
You kind of have to separate yourself a little bit and make sure that the artist is happy with the product. So
Yeah.
obviously, you have your own taste and your own influence. So once I felt like it was getting to that point, I was delivering mixes as if it was another band that I was working with, and just making sure everyone was happy with it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was the lens that I tried to look at it through.
Yeah.
Just making sure everyone's happy with it, and that I wasn't taking forever if I could help it.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's
Gotcha.
completely fair. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
A bit of a roller coaster, I want to say. The themes of the album tend to be pretty dark, not super positive, I want to say. There's a lot of themes about self-doubt, imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
There's actually a fair bit of loss and grief on it as well.
Mhm.
Um, our vocalist actually went through a pretty rough time in terms of family losses.
Hmm.
Um, so there were a few moments where we could slow down and um, talk about that on the album. Um, Towards the end of it, though, the last song, "Lament," did take on a bit of a second meaning, because that song itself is to do with um, grief and loss specifically. And
Hmm.
we lost our friend Ryan from Polaris
Hmm.
before the album came out,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it was as pretty much as I was wrapping up the production on that song.
Hmm.
Um, if I've got my timeline right, because I do remember kind of putting the last little pieces on that song and thinking about Ryan specifically.
Mhm.
Um, so there were a few kind of dark moments on the album in terms of headspace. Uh, yeah, not the happiest album, I want to say.
No,
Yeah,
that's completely fair. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should you do it in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I do think there's a bit of variety on it. I would say from start to finish is probably the intended listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you do kind of want to get that roller coaster. That there's definitely some slower jams on it. There's some heavier jams on it, just short and sweet, fun kind of songs. A
Mhm.
couple of angry ones, a couple of fun ones, a couple of catchy ones. I don't
Mhm.
know. So, however you really want to listen to it, um,
Mhm.
is is the way to do it.
Yeah.
I would just say give the whole album a chance.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Damn right. Agreed. And this one should be super, super quick off top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Dark, catchy, heavy. I think that kind of encapsulates it.
Yeah,
I'd say so. Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I wouldn't want to impart a specific emotion because I feel like a lot of this is pretty open to interpretation.
Mhm.
Mhm.
At least in terms of what you get from it. Because like I said, there is a bit of a roller coaster in terms of um, moods on the album. Um, so there are those kind of dark and moody moments. There are those kind of fun, more energetic moments. So whatever you're feeling, I think just let yourself feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As we've established, the album has dark enough themes on it that if you want to dig in and actually take in what is being said, you'll come away feeling that way. But if you want to just
Mhm.
listen to it because it's metalcore and it's heavy,
Mhm.
you'll get that feeling as well.
Yeah.
That's it. I really tend to prefer having a listening experience that's like one open to interpretation, but like two has a fair bit of variety. Like I'm a fan of having dynamics throughout a song or an album. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it's it's one of those things that can take you on a little bit of a journey.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Um, in terms of challenging, like I think in general we take the longest to work on vocals.
Mhm.
Um, not that we don't have ideas, it's more just like we overthink things a little bit, maybe. Um, and we do try to get the whole band involved.
Mhm.
Um, but I think just in terms of time, that's probably the most challenging one, doing vocals. Um, yeah, and I mean, in terms of interesting stuff, there's a few cool moments of production where either myself or Ollie have kind of put in some interesting synth or percussion elements or something like that. That
Mhm.
little bits of ear candy, or it might even be just like the full hook itself.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that stuff, so yeah, hopefully people enjoy that as well.
Damn right. Big fan.
Hell yeah.
Big fan.
So for this question, I want
Yeah,
you to
awesome.
picture you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
That's a tricky one because so everyone in the band is vegan, so
Okay.
we
Me too. Me too.
we oh, nice. Okay, awesome. So I want to say Julian, our vocalist, is kind of like the foodie of the band.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
whenever we're on tour, so this is less of a gas station thing, but like he pretty much wants to pick out a really good spot to eat, like wherever we are on
Mhm.
tour. It's like, hey, there's this really cool fancy vegan restaurant in Melbourne or Brisbane.
Mhm.
Um, so he looks care of us. He takes care of us in terms of food.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to. Do you guys have Cliff Bars
Yep.
Yeah.
over there?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cliff
Yeah.
Bars are great. They're like an easy kind of gas station kind of thing that you can grab. Either that
Mhm.
or do you have kettle chips?
Yeah. Oh
The
my
brand is
God.
Kettle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Kettle
Fuck.
Kettle chili chips. I want to say those are pretty goated as
Those
well.
sound
Yeah.
crazy.
You're onto something with that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
What flavor Cliff Bar?
I think the peanut butter one. I think that
Okay.
one's the
All
best.
right.
Okay.
Personally,
Do you have?
I
Yeah.
go for the chocolate brownie, but I'll get the combo box that's chocolate brownie and chocolate chip because I don't fuck with the chocolate chip as much, so the box
Hey.
will last longer. Saves
You're
everybody
offended,
money.
Glory.
That's fair. I'm a big chocolate chip fan.
Nah,
Yeah.
those are
know
what's
what?
in the cabinet right now.
Yeah.
But
Ship
those,
them to me, man. Ship them to me. I'll take them.
Yeah,
those
I
keep
like
me
all of
going.
those.
Those keep me going when I book us 9 interviews in a day and when I don't have time to eat lunch. Those are lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll
Jesus
keep you
Christ.
going. It's got
Yeah.
some protein, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure, for sure. And on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
Oh,
Mhm.
I wish Julian was here to answer that question. Um, man. Oh, okay. We've been going to this place here in Sydney called Don Fred, which is like um a really good Italian place.
Mhm.
It's all vegan, of course, but they make these really cool. I mean, everything they make is really good, but I think there's like a focaccia with um like I think I'm totally butchering this, but it's like grilled zucchini or something like that, and it's got this like vegan cream cheese type of thing. So I want to say like a really fancy focaccia.
I,
God damn.
I might fly to Sydney just to try that.
Oh yeah, worth it, worth it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love focaccia. So you're speaking my language. Big fan. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome, awesome.
Wonderful.
And for the last couple questions, going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Ooh, good question. Maybe it's one of those focaccias. I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me sold.
Although, yeah, let's mix it up though a little bit.
Mm.
Maybe just a really good plate of nachos
Mm.
with a margarita to match.
Ooh.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Rocking with it. Rocking with it. And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Just because I've been getting back into it lately, I'm a big Coheed and Cambria fanboy,
Mhm.
and they're a concept band with like, you know, this big sci-fi world that they've built.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'll just hang out there for a week.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
fuck yeah.
And I've done of asking last question. Every single person that we've spoken to have said it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Oh man, is black too obvious an answer?
So I don't accept that as an answer, me personally.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. I
Yeah,
only
I'm
say that
sorry.
because I exclusively wear black. I don't really wear anything else.
Yeah.
Let's go with like a deep kind of forest green.
Ooh. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Hell
It
yeah.
used to be red back in the day for some reason, when I was a
Mhm.
kid.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I want to say like a forest green.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
love it. Good pick.
So as I said, that's all the questions I've say. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
I guess our album, Listen to Second Shadow. Yeah, we like it, so hopefully you like it as well.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you. It's been Mark from Inertia, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.